All right. Good morning. I hope everyone's weekend was a little bit better than mine. I'm not gonna lie. I had a long weekend. It's kind of put. I know that I have some videos that I've been working on. Prior 2 weeks was just procrastination and deciding that playing some video games with my kids was a higher priority. This last weekend, my son actually was in the hospital, and so yeah, he's fine. Everybody's fine. It made for a very long weekend. Staying a day and a half in the hospital is a very long weekend. So I hope everyone else has had a better weekend than that. But everyone's okay, so it's not a big deal. I guess. Anyways, if you guys know somebody that has a type 1 diabetic child, go make them a meal or something. Give them a hug. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. All right. So let's jump into you know what? We normally go over security first. But I have something new I want to show you guys. And I don't know how to feel about it. It's something I've been calling for a very long time. And I don't know how I feel about somebody else doing it before me. So I'm a little hurt about my own procrastination. But here, let's dig into this. But before we do, as always, all thoughts on here are those of my own, not paid by anybody. I don't represent my employer, past, present, or future. These are just my own. So let's dig into this. What is this? What is this? The Cycle platform. It is a Kubernetes competitor. Now, it's not open source, not that I've found so far, which is sad, and I think will actually hurt their adoption easily. And good morning, Russell. But their manifesto is actually, I agree with some of their manifesto. Maybe not all of it. It's hard to tell if you agree with all of it because sometimes some of the things are a little vague. But yeah, there are. This is something I've said again and again when you're trying to adopt Kubernetes. Understand the problems that Kubernetes fixes. If those aren't your problems, don't try to use Kubernetes to fix them. And so I agree with this in general terms. Now, I don't know if they fixed it. I haven't tried it yet. I need to, but I need to get my other videos out before I dive into this and actually see what it does. I wish that it was open source. As far as I can tell, it is not. But yeah. Now, that being said, this isn't the only competitor that's out there. A lot of you guys might know of HashiCorp's Nomad. Nomad also does container orchestration and is an interesting take on it. So yeah, definitely if you're not sold into Kubernetes at this point, you should check out the things that are out there at your to use. Now again, haven't used it. I just found it interesting. So yeah. Hey Russell, Jubril, thanks for joining me. Have you guys seen Cycle before? I haven't. I don't think it's going to take down Kubernetes. But I found it interesting. Thought I would share it with you guys. And thanks for joining and commenting. All right. So let's get into the security. We have a couple interesting things for security going on. The first thing is the CISA, or the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. CISA is a U.S. agency and has released some free cybersecurity services and tools. Now, I was a little more excited when I saw this, but half of this stuff is like halt bad practices. There's two things that are interesting though. First, this Kev catalog is very useful. So you should be using the Kev catalog. So these are known security flaws that are being hit in production, and you can be scanning for this. The other thing is the sign up for the CI, and now it doesn't state that this here, but I'm assuming this is for U.S. companies and citizens only. My assumptions, though, because it's signing up. Basically, they'll scan your live services for you. I actually don't know. I need to sign up for my blog to be scanned by them. I'm a little a little petrified to actually give them my IP address, but I think I'm going to. I don't know what they're going to do, but it's kind of interesting. You can't sign up on a website. You actually have to mail them, email them. I don't know. Sounds interesting, though. If you're a company in the US, I definitely check it out. If you're not, it doesn't say that it only limits it to US companies, but yeah. Anyways, interesting note there. All right, we're going to jump into this is the known exploited vulnerabilities catalog. You can get it in many forms, and many tools actually use this as a backend. There was a hacker that could have printed unlimited Ethereum, but chose 2 million. That was a hard choice. 2 million? I could do something illegal or just get 2 million. This is interesting because one of the things that Ethereum and cryptocurrencies want to provide is this way to let you send securely money person to person, like you could with cash if we could meet. Interestingly enough, though, I find it is actually more expensive. And so actually one of the flaw was in this layer that makes it cheaper. So signing Ethereum blockchain is much more expensive. Man, English is hard in the morning. But it costs a lot to sign a new block, and so what happens is they basically put this layer 2 on there of these IOUs that get batch processed effectively. I'm oversimplifying it, I know, but that's effectively what happens because the blockchain itself doesn't actually do that very well because of its proof of work and proof of Ethereum is proof of work-ish migrating to proof of stake. That's taken years. Anyways, it was in this layer 2 that the issue happened. And so, yeah. Anyways, you can read about it more if you want. This was an interesting flaw in Snap. So if you're familiar with Snap, it's installed on all Ubuntu machines, but it's also used on other machines than just Ubuntu. It's a very nice container-based package manager. No, not Docker container. I know what I'm talking about, but it uses the same technologies in the backend as containers does. So, anyways, another alternative. I was going to say open source, but Snap is open source. Canonical is very good about making things open source in a community. Is Flatpak. I do like Flatpak. Doesn't have as much support as Snap does, but I do like Flatpak. So, anyways, this was privilege escalation. This doesn't affect too much in the cloud. Like, I wouldn't be too worried about this because most of the things you don't use you're not running things in Snap, unless you're running things in Snap in production. And if you are, then this would be a big deal. Otherwise, it's more of privilege escalation for users, local users, which is a problem, but not really unless you're dealing with like servers that have Snap installed on it. So, yep. Now this is a big deal. So the T2 chip on the Mac is actually one of the things that the hardware security. And you'll know a lot of Windows people complaining about the security requirements for Windows now moving up, and it's because you really need hardware security to provide the best security. These chips, at least in standard day practice. Maybe we'll find in the future that we can do it all in our quantum software, but right now it's in these chips. And a pretty major flaw has been found in the T2. So if you have a T2, your password can be cracked. Now, that being said, you still need physical access to the device. So this is where physical access is still important. There was a remote code execution. That's what RCE stands for on Cassandra. So this is a pretty large security flaw. So yep, it's being tracked. It has been patched. So anyways, another interesting note is this is not on Cassandra 4, so just Cassandra version 3. So anyways, yep. If you're running that, make sure to patch your servers. So because of all those security things, I wanted to just point you to some products that can help with security. The first one is GitHub Advanced code scanning. They have code scanning. If you have an open source project, you can use it. So go use it. It's going to make your code better and more secure. There's no reason not to. So go check that out. I'll leave a link to it in the description. Another thing that's really good, and this is how I want to see more companies supporting the open source communities, is it's bumping its reward for Linux kernel, Kubernetes, and GKE vulnerabilities. Now, obviously, GKE is their own thing, but Kubernetes is something they donated to open source, and the Linux kernel is a wholly separate thing from Google, which means that they're willing to pay you to find vulnerabilities in stuff they use, which companies should be doing that. They should, it can be a bounty program. It can be that they just pay some developers to work full time on it. And this, I think, is the most sustainable way to have open source, is with things like this. So I don't give Google enough credit for some things like this, and I want to give them credit for that. So, and this should make the Linux kernel and Kubernetes more secure. It should encourage people to, look for those bugs and to report them. All right, that's enough. That's enough for security. How's everybody doing this morning? Good? I also want to note here that our community is sponsoring the projects at the end. We had a great conversation over the week about storing your credentials and or secrets and how to deal with secrets, and we had a great conversation. And so I looked up a bunch of projects based off of secrets. So I just want to encourage to have those conversations more often. It encourages me to dig into those areas and find interesting open source projects for that. So definitely keep that up, and thanks for doing that. All right, so let's jump into the cloud. There wasn't a whole lot in cloud. There was one interesting thing that I read. Now, I didn't find this in Microsoft documents, so I'm not going to show you a document, but it looks like Windows servers, VMs on Azure, you can now update without restarting, which would be pretty cool. So correct me if I'm wrong. Again, I couldn't find that in Azure, but I think this was more of a Microsoft thing. So I was looking at Azure specifically. And I'm not even sure that anybody runs on Windows Server anymore. But yeah, I did read that somewhere, and I read that was in general preview, so like or general availability. So that would be pretty cool if you run on Windows Server. But I don't know if that's like a Windows thing. It wasn't in the Azure updates. So don't hold me to that. I'm not showing you that because I didn't validate it, and I tried to look through Windows Server updates, but I don't even know where to look for those. So that was on me. The only other thing in Azure was the ability to automatically delete a VM and its associated resources simultaneously is now in general availability. That's like the most exciting thing that happened in Azure itself. Other than that, in GKE, there was a couple things here that you can check out. But not anything that's like super. A lot of these are like sales pitchy, which I really dislike. I really want them to just give me their I really just want a technical thing of what's new, but that's okay. The only thing that I saw that was really exciting is Cloud Functions 2nd Gen is now in public preview. Now I read this, but I don't know exactly what makes this 2nd Gen from 1st Gen except being better. So I'm gonna have to cover that more in detail next week. So join me next week because I'm going to dig into them a whole lot to understand exactly what 2nd Gen is better than 1st Gen and what's the big changes. So I do see this, and I'm guessing if you use Cloud Functions, you probably know. And yeah. All right, so Amazon announces the general availability of AWS backup for Amazon S3. So if you ever wanted to back up your backups, because I know a lot of people use S3 for their backups, it's now generally available. Auto adjusting budgets. This is an interesting thing. AWS and their pricing, they're always experimenting with something new. I know last year they rolled out, you can pay us in advance and we won't charge you extra. I don't even understand that. Why would you give them your money in advance and not get charged extra? You should get a discount, but it was like, I don't know. This one also looks to be interesting. And I think that this will be much more interesting for individual developers. Let's say I host some stuff on AWS and I want to set like basically a limit spend. This could be interesting. I don't think for production this is actually interesting. You don't want your service to go offline because of auto adjusting budget. Anyways, I need to look into it more. I only read shortly here how creating a budget, AWS budget console. Only read a little bit. I need to dig into it more because maybe I'm misunderstanding it a little bit, and I would love if somebody has more experience with it to let me know what exactly is going on there. All right, Amazon RDS for MariaDB now supports delayed replication. So if you want to replicate, but don't want to replicate right now, Amazon has you covered. Yeah, another one of those head scratcher features. All right, this I found interesting. Lenode. So I'm a fan of DigitalOcean, hence I've not got my Lenode sponsorship here, I guess. But Lenode was acquired. So yeah, I know Lenode offered a really good developer-friendly Kubernetes service. I never personally used it myself. I know that I've heard a lot of people really talk well of it. So yeah, interesting. And good for them. Quality. All right. So that's pretty much it for my cloud news. And you know what? I didn't even show you the Lenode. There you go. Lenode. I don't know that you guys needed to see that, but yeah, that's what happened. That's what happened. All right, so we can get into our general news. You know what? I say that, but I actually have 2 more cloud things to talk about. 2 more cloud things, and then we'll go on to general talk. The first one was this. Now, I did not verify it, so if somebody has experience with it, I don't use Azure on a day-to-day basis, but there was reports that Azure DevOps service was down in Europe. So there is that. I again didn't verify it. The other big news is that Terraform AWS Provider version 4 upgrade guide. It looks like Terraform has completely reworked its S3 bucket. So like they have this huge section of S3 bucket refactor, and this is terrifying to me. I am not a huge Terraform expert. I've used it. I can use them. But basically, yeah, it looks fairly large. So if you're looking to update to version 4, They use Simver, which means that version 4 has some breaking changes. So you should definitely look at the upgrade guide if you're looking to do it. It looks like hopefully S3 is getting to be quite a bit better in version 4. But I would be, if you're heavy on the S3 usage, I would be cautious on this upgrade. You know what, Russell? Why? Now, I don't know. I actually don't know this company. I don't know how to pronounce their name either. So, maybe they do some horrible things and I don't know. But I've never understood this like, oh, they're being bought. I absolutely will leave. Now, if they get bought and the parent company does things with them that like make the technology worse, I get it. But just the fact that they got bought, or even if they got bought by somebody that you don't, let's say, I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm not going to pronounce it. The A word here. Let's say that you don't even like the software that group provides. That's fine, unless you have a moral obligation against them because they provide terrorists with stuff. Then I don't understand why you would leave. I don't understand. DevOps has a couple of outages. Are you saying DevOps as a whole has a couple of outages? like the concept? Or if you're saying Azure DevOps. I haven't used Azure DevOps. I've actually heard decent things about Azure DevOps as far as what it allows DevOps teams and companies that are adopting DevOps to do. I personally haven't used it, so it's very hard for me to comment. But what you're saying doesn't actually surprise me because I feel like I have actually heard or read of outages in the DevOps section multiple times beforehand. So I think that sounds right. I think that sounds right. Oh, I know. Microsoft bought GitHub. And you know what? Honestly, I think I think it was a really good thing for GitHub. If you look at the things that have rolled out to GitHub and all of the free stuff for open source projects that has rolled out to GitHub subsequently, we're talking about their security scanning that I was just talking about that allows you to do those things. That's free for open source projects. All of those things have come to GitHub, and I think that they actually acquired companies to provide. Ooh, I'm sorry. Whew. They actually acquired companies to do that, and they wouldn't have been able to do that without Microsoft's funding. I don't care how much you love or hate Microsoft. Now, again, if they do something horrible, then sure, take your grievances. But yeah, I don't know. It seems like somebody buys somebody, and there's at least a small percentage of people who are completely up in arms about the fact that you sold your company. This is what I mean. They either are looking to go become very profitable or sell it to somebody that can leverage it. That's what people create a company for. So I'm happy for them. I don't personally use them, but that's just my personal choice. I got started on DigitalOcean. There's no reason for me to switch as a personal developer. Nothing against them. All right, so this is the article I found. With Microsoft announced the general availability of hot patching for Windows Server Azure Edition core virtual machines, allowing admins to install Windows security updates on supported VMs without requiring server restarts. What confuses me is I couldn't find this on Azure's updates. So like I don't know. Like this is just on bleepingcomputer.com, and generally I found them to be like, I don't know why they would be lying about this, but I couldn't find it on Azure. Maybe I just missed it. And And yeah, so maybe that's the case, and if that's the case, my bad, because this I think would be huge for the 12 people that still use Windows Server in in the cloud. So yeah. All right, let's talk about GitOps fundamentals. Now, I found this. It seemed like a pretty good article on GitOps fundamentals, but raw code, somebody that he has had me on his live stream, does a pretty good clustered, which is where two people break a cluster. Some of you in chat know and have broken a cluster for me. We won't talk about recompiling the world. Still sore about that. He actually did a really good video on GitOps fundamentals like 3 years ago, and I'm going to actually put that video in the description of this this video. So if you're wanting to get to know more about GitOps, I have a video on GitOps. You can watch that. Raw Code has a much more in-depth, maybe more technical talk about GitOps, and definitely worth watching. All right, let's go ahead into the general news. You guys know that I love Rust, and I cannot help but cover Rust news. And you know what? There's a new release of Rust, so I have to cover it. I just have to. 158 has been released January 13th. I know that I told you about this back in January, I believe, because I was excited about it, but I'm just now getting to, I actually got to read more of it, which I found that there was a lot of things that were really exciting about it because of that. And so, yeah, you should definitely look into it. This is what I kind of just realized to be excited about. There is better Linux support, and I guess these are supported everywhere, but yeah, like you can now test if it's a symlink and it's stabilized, which is super powerful, especially when you're talking about system programming, which I think Rust lends itself to system programming. I will not let it go. I will not let it go, Russell. Yeah, so I thought that was cool. All right, so Kubernetes on bare metal versus VM. All right, so this isn't about Kubernetes versus bare metal, and this is my engineering blog of the week. I really liked it. It's not about Kubernetes versus bare metal. It's about running Kubernetes on bare metal or VMs, and why you would want to do one or the other. And I thought it was really well done. Some of these performance things, you're going to have people that sit in either camp. And the reason I liked this person was I thought it was a very good article on trying to bring everyone to the table. Breaking down where the performance penalties are when you're talking about VMs. And why or why not is why it isn't a big deal. So I definitely suggest reading this. Yeah, I suggest reading it. Give it a read. We'll move on. This was also another good read, scaling Kubernetes to over 4K nodes and 200,000 pods. As you know, Kubernetes has scaling issues when you hit the extremes. Chronically, I think GCP only supports 2,000 nodes. I think that's true of most of the cloud providers. So 4K nodes is a feat, although I have seen some people go up to 10,000 nodes. The other interesting thing here is the 200,000 pods, because you have to think about how many pods are running per node. You can do this simple division here to understand that. That's actually a lot of pods running per node, more than what's commonly recommended. So on GCP, you're only allowed 110 pods per node. Now, that's a little bit of guesswork, and I know that OpenShift lets you do more. And again, it's guesswork because how many containers is the more important thing. How many containers are you running per pod is really where the system has starts to have limits. So, all right. So this is a cool read, and you should definitely read it. It goes into some of the stuff that they had to do. Oh, sorry, I got a little tickle. All right. So went through all of the challenges. It was a good read, especially if you're into scaling Kubernetes. I suggest you read it. There are some other ones out there that I've linked to in the past. I'll continue linking them. They're good stores. This I found interesting because it points to a problem. This is two problems I have. First is Google Drive is flagging stuff for copyright violation, and it's obviously really, really bad at it. It's flagging stuff for copyright violations like, it's not in this one, empty text files, because other people have empty text files, so you're obviously violating copyright. It's that bad. It's that bad. You can't share an empty text file because it violates copyright. The newest one is this .ds store, which the reason I love this article here is it brought up the .ds store. Why the crap does Apple pollute every directory with .ds store? For no apparent reason. It's the worst thing known to humankind, and it annoys the crap out of me. But Google Drive will also flag them for copyright violations. Does it get better? I don't think it does. This made my week. I had a general wait. Russell, I'm going to jump back to that. I had a general good chuckle about this because it was the two worst things in my Google Drive's copyright validation. I have had things copyright flagged on me that were like, I was starting to write a document and I had like 10 words in it. And it was like, okay, sure. Okay, so 4,000. 1 second. You just asked me to do live math. I thought that this was different. Russell complains that 4,000 nodes with 200,000 nodes on it is only, yes, it is 50. It is only 50. That's actually not that many pods per node. It's not that many pods per node. It's about 50. 4,000 nodes is impressive still, but yes. Okay. Anyways, going back. Thank you, Russell, for keeping my math straight. All right. The U.S. government sets forth zero trust. As I've said in my what to expect for 2022, zero trust is very large. You need to adopt a zero trust architecture, and this isn't about like not trusting your employees. This is about keeping your networks safe, and this is about minimizing the impact of a security breach. My favorite one is when Cloudflare's cameras were hacked, and yet the hackers still couldn't get anywhere else on their network because of zero trust. So now another one of my friends said that zero trust isn't a 2022 thing. If you haven't adopted zero trust, then you're behind the times. I tend to disagree, but you need to adopt zero trust, and you need to do it as soon as possible. And this is a good article on zero trust. All right, let's talk about Oh, you know what? I didn't switch my screen back. Blah, 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 blah. Zero trust. It's good. Another threat to Web3 and decentralized networks. I see one here. I found this in my research I was doing for my Web3 video, which so far is like going to be 45 minutes long. Is that too long for like a documentary style? What is crypto? Why it became a thing, and is it a good thing video? I don't know. I'm having a hard time compressing it while also going over the basic information. But there is a new phishing attack if it wasn't enough of a scam, you have more of a scam. So be careful. Be careful. I got a chuckle out of this. A father accidentally shut down his town's whole internet in an effort to limit his kid's screen time. I don't even know how this works. Oh, yeah. Anyways, yes, he was trying to basically shut down the internet and shut it down for an entire town, which was pretty funny. I'm going to try to hurry up because we only have a little bit of time, but I wanted to I wanted to get to what our community was talking about. So here was best patch management tools. If you guys still need patch management tools, it was an interesting read. Last week we talked about Intel and their hybrid chips that they had with like licensing, and it seems that they're wanting to license different architectures. So my understanding from this is that their goal is you'll buy the chip, and if you just want to run your standard Intel workload, it will run the standard Intel workload. But if you then want to run ARM workloads on your Intel chips, you can, and that's a licensing feature because it actually unlocks like ARM on the chip or RISC-V. Interesting. I still don't think you should have to pay a licensing fee for it. This was a node graph in Rust because I love Rust, so deal with it. All right. So this was what we had a conversation with. Sorry for rushing through this last little bit, but I did want to talk about this, but I wanted to go hang out with my family. So let's talk about secret management in Kubernetes. Now, this was kind of a rabbit hole I jumped into. There's the classics. You can say Vault or, a cert manager. But it turns out there's a lot of different ones, and so I have a bunch of different projects, and we're going to talk about them. I haven't used every single one of these projects, so you can't ask me which one I think is better. I don't know. I'm bringing them to your attention. That's what I'm doing. And thanks for the community that had a cool conversation on Discord. So keep it up, and we'll keep talking over things. All right, so the first one. And another thing that I realized, why this was such a rabbit hole. When you talk about secrets, there are different types of secrets. And there are different tools that are specifically geared towards different types of secrets. Like Cert Manager is kind of geared towards certificates. But you could have other secrets. So we're actually going to, some of these projects deal with different types of secrets. Some are for MTLS and that type of operation. Some are for identity. So like who's who. And that's where it gets interesting. And why knowing your problem is really important, because only you are going to know what solves your problem the best. All right, so this is the Secure Production Identity Framework for everyone. Spire. And basically, it is an implementation that allows you to do secure identity for everyone in your production. Spire is the open source reference implementation, but Istio, Console, and Kuma all implement these in their service mesh. And the Envoy proxy obviously works based off of Envoy. So there's that. Then there is Authing, something I had never seen before. Quickly implements authentication and user management. This is cool. I don't know if it actually works quickly and easily, because if you've ever tried to do identity management, it's usually difficult. I love that they have a DS store checked into there. That makes me have real confidence. So then there's Authens, I think is how you pronounce it. Don't quote me. Again, never used it. Provides a secure identity in the form of short-lived certificates for workloads and service deployed in private or public clouds. So if you're looking for short-lived certificates, that brings me to Conjur. Conjur, again, I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it. Provides secret management and application identity for modern infrastructure. And then that brings me to Keycloak. Keycloak is one that I've actually used and actually know, and it's single sign-on. And this one is supported by Red Hat, so it's one of the only open source company backed ones. All of these are open source, but yeah, it does identity and social login, single sign-on, user federation, all those good things. Hydra is like Keycloak, except it's written in Go instead of Java. Wait. This terrifies me. That's like a cocktail of death. Shell, Mustache, JavaScript, Makefile, Ruby, and whew, that's a cocktail. Okay. I need to do that. The open source cocktail. Like we need to come up with names for these cocktails and make a chart out of them. That would be fun. Okay. So here is yeah, I'm not even gonna work at how to pronounce that. Have no idea, but it's again identity aware access. It is open source, so it's a identity aware proxy. So basically, it gives access to internal applications in an identity aware way. I've never used it, so I don't know. I don't know. Keywhiz. This comes from Square, I believe, and is a system for distributing and managing systems, or managing secrets, not systems. Secrets. So I've never used this, but it comes from Keywhiz. I believe Keywhiz is used by Square. It's 100% Java. That sucks, but it is from Square. I think they do mostly Java stuff, so doesn't surprise me. And lastly, external secrets. This is one of the ones that we were talking about in our Discord chat. And yeah, so that was it. I know I rushed over those, but I wanted to hear your guys' comments. What have you guys used? Did you use some? Have you guys used something that's not on here? I guess I didn't talk about Vault. I feel like Vault is the de facto, and Cert Manager. Cert Manager and Vault, I feel like, are the de facto. I have secrets. Secret things. The external secrets operator. The last one that we were talking about. All it does is tie together third-party secret managers into your Kubernetes cluster. So if you have stuff in AWS Secret Manager and you want them in your Kubernetes secrets, that's what it does. It takes those providers and pulls them into Kubernetes in a secure way. So it takes your supported backends and ties them into Kubernetes. And these are the supported backends. So AWS Secrets Manager, AWS Parameter Store, a keyless, HashiCorp Vault, Goober. I don't know why I call it Goober. Goober Cloud is, for some reason, if I'm going to screw it up, that's what I screw it up as, is Goober Cloud. Google Cloud, Secrets Manager, Azure Key Vault, IBM Cloud Secret Manager, Yandex Lockbox. I've never heard of this. Yandex Lock, is it open source? It looks, no, that's, let's see. Is this an open source? I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't even know what Yandex is. It makes me think of spandex, so I don't like it. Yes, Russell, I do believe that 4,000 nodes is more than most people. So I think that is valid. I think the reason you don't see people put more than 100 pods is because generally it's not good. I made a video, I put 500 nodes, and I can show you what it does. I actually think that, this is an interesting topic. I actually think that the more nodes you have, the fewer pods per node you have to have. And the reason is because the Kubernetes API limits something that maybe I broke on a cluster for you. Basically, when you create a pod and when you manage a pod and all of those things, the kubelet actually communicates with the control plane. And there's actually rate limiting on that. And so one of the things that you have to do to make a 500 pods per node is you have to change that rate limiting. But the problem is this quality of service is there for a reason. And the problem is when you get more nodes, actually the more beefy your control plane has to be, and etcd is just going to burn the crap down because it's already burning. Like, you have ssds in there that are literally, they're probably on like liquid nitrogen just to keep them cool. So yes, this is why I say it's a good, interesting read, because it's a good, interesting read. I really recommend you go read it, especially if you're interested in yeah, interested in learning about that. Identity Server and Azure Key Vault seem to be the .NET standard setup. You know what? There's also the wait. Yeah, Identity Server. I'm not a .NET guy. I know that you are, Russell. But I do know my friend at Switcher Studio. He uses Identity Server, so I do think that you're right with that. I know that they're a .NET shop, and they go with Identity Server. I should have brought Identity Server into this. Okay, one second. Let me pull up Identity Server for all of you guys because I wouldn't be doing my job. Didn't Identity Server from like Identity Server 4 to Identity Server 5 go not open source? Yeah, they did. So shame on Identity Server. One second. Identity Server 4. Okay, so yeah, as of 2020, October 2020, they started a new company. All will happen in the new organization. The new you know what? So I get this. And I say shame on them. And I only mean that half-heartedly. This is a hard project. They provided Identity Server 1, 2, 3, and 4, all for free. And people used them in production and paid nothing back to them. And this is why I say that open source is not a business model. And I think these people figured that out, and it sucks for them because they did really great work. And so when I say shame on them, I don't know. I have mixed feelings. Part of me would say that you don't understand what you were getting into when you made an open source project, and that it's not a business model. But at the same time, they should get paid for their awesome work. I know that a lot of people depend on Identity Server. So I don't know the solution to this. I wish that I did. You know what? I would love to see a company that provided, and this would be effectively what Red Hat does, but basically what I would love to see is a company that, it's a little different than Red Hat, a little nuanced, would provide things like Identity Server as an RPM or a deb or whatever, and provide support for it, and then pass on 10% of their profits for providing that support to whatever piece of software it is in the backend. So if it was Identity Server 4, then they would pass on 10% of that to the Identity Server 4 project, or whichever project they were providing support for. I really think that that would be a really cool business model. The model is you're selling support for open source projects, and one of the cool things is that companies, if they used you for your support, would also be directly supporting the back end project. I would love to see that company start. I think that would be, now it would have to bring some value to some companies. So I'm not entirely sure. Obviously, the support is the value. Do they need to roll their own OS like Red Hat and Ubuntu? I don't know. Okay, let me see if I can't unmoderate them. I don't do this moderating. It doesn't tell me. 1 second. It's not letting me moderate them. So 1 second. How do I... Russell, can you put what and I'm apologizing if I'm mispronouncing your actual name. Vijay. Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce your name, but could you summarize what they're saying? Because I can't. I don't know. I guess I'm not a moderator on my own channel. It just says message retracted, which I'm assuming means they removed it. Ah, Yandex is a Russian company. Oh. Okay. That's why it makes me think of spandex. It still makes me think of spandex. It doesn't stop that. That's just, I'm sorry. Not trying to make fun of your company name. I did though. So I apologize. All right. That's it for me today. I hope you guys have a great week. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for chatting. Sorry for the retracted messages. Hopefully you retracted them and that wasn't... You know what? YouTube and Google, maybe because I call them Goober, and sometimes I call it Kubernetes. I got stuck on that once. Kubernetes. They like to moderate me, and they don't let me moderate myself or my community. So I mostly have moderating turned off. Because I don't have any bad actors. And when I do, I'll turn moderating on. But yeah, so sorry if you guys are getting moderated. It's not me. It's Google. So, and it might be because of me, but anyways. I'm going to sign off for today. Thank you everyone for joining. Thanks for being part of the community, and I will see you guys next week.